So I've done all of my pre-writing. I have gathered tons and tons and tons of quotes. I have a couple of ideas emerging that I want to be able to use within the body of my paper. Now I have to look through and just grab things and start organizing my paper. One of the things that I found was this quote from the last chapter of the book, and I don't know where I want to put it exactly. It feels like something that I could potentially use in my body, but it also feels like something I could potentially use in my conclusion. Um, and I think that for now, so the quote is about they keep the dead alive with stories. When he was shot in the head, the men talked about how they'd never seen him so mellow. I think on my paper that, well, maybe that goes with body paragraph. That for sure goes with body paragraph 4. I don't think it's the first piece of evidence I want to use, but I feel like I definitely want to use that evidence. So I'll paste that in there. I think I'm gonna disregard most of the stuff about Jimmy Lavender or I'm sorry, not Jimmy Cross that I gathered, and I think that the only time I'm really gonna talk about him is when it says that he blamed himself for Ted Lavender's death. I feel like I can use this thing. The things they carried were determined by necessity. And then Ted Lavender, who was scared, carried tranquilizers. I feel like this maybe would work as context for the other quote about him being scared and carrying tranquilizers. So this is the first time that he mentions in the chapter Ted Lavender, when he says Ted Lavender who was scared. So I think I want to use that on in the paragraph where I deal, or paragraphs. It might be more than one paragraph, but this is the idea that I'm generating here. That every time he brings up Ted Lavender, there seems to be more information layering on what happened. And I know that this is how we tell stories as people, that we often will say something. And then as we continue talking, and maybe we've moved away from that topic for a moment, but as we continue talking, we'll reveal more information about what happened. And then we'll cycle back to it and we'll reveal more information about what happened. And I need to think about using the psychological lens. Why is he doing that? Why is he layering more and more information? Because at first it seems like he just kind of mentions them and then he moves on. And then it seems like he comes back to it pretty quickly and then he moves on. And then he comes back to it and he spends more time there. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like somebody circling an animal trying to find a way in to hog tie it a little bit. Like he's just trying to get his head wrapped around the situation, so he keeps circling it and circling it and circling it. And I wonder if I should write some of this down, because this could be the analysis piece of this. O'Brien, the narrator, circles the topic of Ted Lavender at first just mentioning it. But coming back to it, I like this thought that I said out loud. It seems like he's trying to find a way into the story, and he's just not sure where to begin. There's a possibility it could be purpose, that he could be doing it on purpose. But even if he is, there appears to be a hesitancy to jump right into the topic. So this is not my complete analysis, but I've done some thinking about the analysis, and I didn't want to lose it. I want to make sure that I get this quote that I was going to use about him being scared and carrying tranquilizers. And I think there was another piece that I wanted to use too. I think the next time he was mentioned, was his actual death and how they used a poncho to wrap him up. So this body paragraph is by no means whatsoever done, but I've got two pieces of evidence I feel like I can use. I've got a glimpse at my analysis and an idea of how I'm going to introduce the whole thing with the quote, the things they carried were largely determined by necessity. I think I've now figured out where I want to put all of my evidence. I'm a little concerned that just my outline is an entire page long. These quotes are very long. I think in the writing of the paper, I'm going to have to find a way to reduce the quotes or just refer to parts of the chapter instead of quoting it, because I have a lot of quotes in my outline. One of the things that I did is, in some places, if I had a thought that I felt was truly analysis and I didn't want to lose it, I added that thought into my outline. But in other places where I didn't really have, a clear analytical thought about it, I just put the evidence under the point that I felt I was going to try to make with that evidence. I have a lot of work to do here to reduce because I feel like if I write this paper with all of this evidence, it's going to be a 10-pager, and that's certainly not something that I have time for, and the assignment doesn't have a specific number of pages, but 10 pages might be a little much, so I have to figure out how to get it condensed. I am really excited though, because I feel like I have plenty to write about, and I feel like just doing the pre-writing has helped me figure out what points I want to make and how I'm going to move from one point to another. I feel like I can start writing the introduction now. And I feel like I want to start with the title of the chapter. It's important. It's the title of the book. And I feel like there's some things I can say about it. So the things they carried. Seems like a simple, ordinary phrase. And yet, the things we carry as humans, whether physical or emotional, often define us. And they define our situations. We don't think about them. We don't think about the things we carry. Until we feel them. Until the load gets heavy. And the moving gets hard. Let's see, how do I want to transition now into my thesis? And I haven't clearly identified what my thesis is going to be. I know I have to say something about the psychological lens and how you can see Tim O'Brien attempting to come to terms with what seems to be his first experience with the death of a friend in Vietnam. So I wonder if I want to say something about carrying things with other people. Like, sometimes these are burdens we carry alone, but often there are others with their own weights, with their own burdens who walk with us. I like the parallel structure of that. Sometimes these are burdens we carry alone, but often there are others with their own burdens who walk with us. I like the parallel structure of walking alone with a burden versus walking with others who have their own burden. Others with their own burdens who walk with us. Using the psychological lens to examine the first chapter of the things they carried, also titled The Things They Carried. The reader can see, I don't know if I want to use the reader can see. It becomes evident that Tim O'Brien, the narrator, chapter and book, is trying to come to terms with what seems to be his first experience with the death of a friend in Vietnam. And maybe I want to craft that a little bit more as I get further into the writing of this, but for now that'll do as a guiding statement. Now I just have to move into the body of my paper, and I can use my outline in order to do that. And I've already done most of the work for this paper. I just have to follow the planning that I've done, and I'll have a draft.